Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, I often get asked about masteries, and I don't like making many mastery videos because there hasn't been anything new in the world of masteries in a very long time. Last video I think I made about my mastery setups was in January or February, but now with the Battlegrounds full release, many more people have yet again asked about my specific mastery setups as I use them in Battlegrounds. And over time, over metas, obviously, I do try different things with different node combinations, with different mastery setups and different deck builds. So we're going to start with the mastery setup that I had on now for the first 2-3 days since Battlegrounds went live. And then I'm going to go over 4 of my most used mastery setups that I have used throughout all of the previous betas and explain them a bit more. So first off, this is the current mastery setup that I have in game. We're going to be using my website to simulate these. I did find it to be obviously the most economical, and also I actually kind of just completely forgot that this thing exists before. And this is also going to be the easiest way to show them. At the moment, right now, my mastery setup looked like this. I have just changed it. I will change it. I will let you guys know how I changed it. But this was my mastery setup that I quickly threw together when Battlegrounds launched. So offensive tree, pretty much in every single setup, this initial bit is always going to look exactly the same with max precision and max cruelty. 0 points in courage, which is a mastery that I often like to run, except for Battlegrounds. Because in Battlegrounds, if you're down to 50% HP, you're probably losing the match already anyways. So I don't find it quite worth. I think it's a very worthwhile mastery in general questing and quests, alliance quests, so on and so forth. But not in Battlegrounds, because your goal is never to drop below 50%. I pretty much always max out Despair, or at least run 2 points in Despair, because in Battlegrounds, everybody benefits from willpower, and they might have some additional regeneration abilities. So this is definitely extremely helpful, in my opinion. And then, honestly, Deep Wounds and Assassin, I kind of regretted placing. I just threw them in there at the spur of the moment. Typically for Battlegrounds, I do not run any points in Deep Wounds or Assassin most of the time. Then my defense setup, I maxed out Greater Vitality, because remember, this bonus health increase that you gain from Greater Vitality still receives the multiplier from the 300% increased HP node, so it can make a meaningful difference in how tanky your champions are. And then I just maxed out Recovery and Block Proficiency and the willpower. And on my proficiencies, it's quite straightforward. We're not going to see there's 1 point in dexterity, 5 points in mystic dispersion, 5 points in limber, maxed out stupefy and parry. So this is my current setup. Again, not perfect. If I had to redo that setup, and this is the setup that I used most of the time in previous betas, it's pretty much the same. But I max out inequity instead, giving 1 point to Deep Wounds and 1 point to Assassins. So I prefer having inequity maxed out rather than those 3 straggling points here in Deep Wounds and Assassins. And then the defense is pretty much the same. So this is kind of like what I call max tank defense. Well, max tank definitely has like a defensive connotations there. Another setup that I often like to run, and it is a bit cheeky because many people do not expect it, is, again, pretty much the same thing in offense. This is going to be tech and mystic setup. And why it is tech setup, obviously you know, because it runs color tech. Color tech actually can throw a lot of people off guard, because when they are used to doing X amount of rotations or specific kind of amount of combos to get to bars of power in order to counter Penny Parkers or Nimrods or something like that, if you slow them down, it is extremely beneficial. And it's also really helpful offensively. If you do not have to bait out as many special attacks from your opponents, you can be more aggressive. And this one's actually wrong. This one should be at 6, I believe. And this one should be back up at 3. And then I have 1 point spare that you can put in anywhere you want. Dude. This one was slightly wrong. My bad. You can put in that 1 point. Fine. leave it at 7, I suppose. So my apologies for that. But yeah, this one would look about like this. So this would be Tech and Mystic setup. We obviously run Mystic Dispersion, Max Parry, Max Limber, Max Stupefy, and Max Color Tech. This is a setup I don't run as often, but I sometimes do like to build my deck around it to include more tech champions and just kind of mess with opponents. And the last two setups is for when I run Liquid Courage Double Edge. The first setup is when I run Liquid Courage Double Edge and have Mystic Dispersion Mastery active. And I don't use this one that often because most of the time in Battlegrounds, if I run Liquid Courage Double Edge, I don't run Mystic Dispersion. But if you want to run Mystic Dispersion, then this is how I do it. Offense is basically identical. That you're going to notice the Despair is 2 out of 3, and there's the same attack tree except for the Liquid Courage Double Edge maxed out. On defense, you're going to notice that we're not putting any points anymore in Greater Vitality, because the way Willpower, Liquid Courage, and Double Edge interacts, the higher your adjusted health with boosts, or in this case, Greater Vitality Mastery, the more net health loss you have. Because Willpower heals you only based on your base health, but Liquid Courage Double Edge calculates the damage you take on your modified health. So you do not want any Greater Vitality points here, so we have slightly adjusted our defensive setup. And this again is how I would run the Proficiencies with 2 out of 3 in Parry, Max Limber, and Max Mystic Dispersion. And this last setup is a setup that I just now spec'd in, because I do want to test how well or poorly I will be doing with Liquid Courage Double Edge in this Bulwark meta. And with that, we're going to see that we have basically identical offensive setup, except this time around I have the luxury of maxing out Despair. I also maxed out Inequity and Coagulate for this setup. Rest of the defense is the same. And when it comes to proficiencies, I run 2 out of 3 in Parry, 5 out of 5 in Limber, 1 point in Dexterity, and 1 point in Stupefy. So what I will do now is I'm going to slowly roll through each of these setups. If you do want to take screenshots of any of these mastery, well, preferences, I suppose, that I have. And with that, hopefully you guys will have found this video somewhat useful, and this is definitely the better way to display the masteries rather than changing them live. I have this exact setup right now on that I will try to use in Battlegrounds for the next few days. So this is the Recoil MD setup that I typically run. And this is the defense, and this is the proficiency tree. So this is Tech and Mystic setup that most of the time use. Well, when I use this, this is how it looks like. That's what I mean to say. Here we have proficiencies. And this is my kind of tanky setup that I run most of the time without Liquid Courage Double Edge, because it does have the max inequity, it has max greater vitality. Makes it harder for your defenders to be killed. Or at the very least, slower. And this is a setup that I had on right now. I don't know if I recommend this one for everybody, but this is a setup that I used for the first couple of days, and well, I did very, very well, but still not the perfect set, I think. Again, either way, that is going to be pretty much it for this video. There's no need to stretch it out any longer. Let me know what you think about these. So you guys saw 5 mastery setups that I typically use in Battlegrounds. Let me know how they compare with yours, and I will catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next